WAFB, the first 50 years, is sponsored by U.S. agencies, V. Watts Furniture, and Acadian Ambulance.
50 years ago, 1953, the first television station in Baton Rouge signed on the air. For the first time ever, people saw a parade right in their living rooms. For the past 5 decades, Louisiana's news channel brought laughter, history, and news into your homes. Tonight, we invite you to celebrate with us, WAFB, the first 50 years.
Good evening, and thank you for joining this hour-long anniversary celebration for WAFB. I'm George Sells.
And I'm Donna Britt. Tonight, we'll reacquaint you with some old friends, play some of those old television shows, and look at the past 5 decades of news, sports, and weather. We'll also take a look at the future of television.
But first, before we get to the TV station itself, let's look at the things people were talking about in the year 1953. The population of the city and parish had doubled since the beginning of World War II. People still dressed up to go to LSU football games. A public confrontation over civil rights would hit Baton Rouge long before other southern cities, and voters had tired of the antics of Governor Earl K. Long.
A new crusading governor named Bob Kennan was in the first year of his only term.
I'm Grevenberg.
Did you do that?
No.
Governor Kennan's new police superintendent was such a crusader that Hollywood made exaggerated movies about him. In real life, Francis Grevenberg shut down gambling operations at 62 of 64 Louisiana parishes.
The voice of the tide, Charlie Zeno.
Something even more revolutionary, LSU brought in an announcer from Alabama to call LSU football games. Heresy. The LSU coach at the time was Gaynell Tinsley, headed for his 4th losing season. 2 years later, Tinsley would be replaced by a man named Paul Dietzel.
He's one of the best mayors that's ever hit any city.
That mayor elected in 1953 was a handsome young man named Jesse Webb. Same year, a brand new councilman named Woody Dumas came to office. 3 years later, Mayor Jesse Webb would die in a plane crash.
Oh dear, that was terrible.
And his widow, Mary, would become Baton Rouge's only woman mayor. In 1953, shopping patterns were still unchanged. Groceries at neighborhood stores like the High-Low at 21st and Choctaw, but downtown for the nicer items. But one group was still left out.
We had no restroom downtown that we could go to.
Anywhere downtown?
No. You had to come back almost to the black community to get a restroom. And that, to me, was the height of it all.
And black people still had to sit in the back of those fancy new electric streetcars and buses, until a young preacher named Theodore J. Jemison arrived at his new church here on East Boulevard in Baton Rouge in 1953. That was the same year the new TV station was going on the air, just a block away on Government Street. The young Jemison launched something unheard of at that time, a black boycott of the Baton Rouge bus system.
There was not a single Negro passenger on the bus.
And 2 years before Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King made history in Montgomery, Alabama with their bus boycott, the Baton Rouge black community, using private autos, built a convoy system to replace the bus system. As air conditioning arrived, Baton Rouge was changing in far more areas than civil rights. The river ferries were disappearing. Booming 3rd Street would give way to neighborhood shopping centers, and the city's dominant radio station on Florida Street would get new competition from a brand new medium called television.
And that was 1953.
The brand new medium, television, was an outright horse race to get a license.
Business people knew that getting the first TV channel on could lock in viewers and advertisers for years to come.
WAFB hit the air 2 years before its competition, and it was a direct result of downright ingenuity, doing an end run around the government red tape. Burgers are on the grill. Cayenne is in the cooker. And mudbugs are getting their final wash. This big family birthday bash is for the man in the baseball cap. Sid White is 90 years old.
Doing okay, darling.
Good. Sid might not admit it now, but in his younger days, he detested the idea of television.
Hey, Betty.
How you doing?
Just fine, sweetheart.
When he went to anybody's house, all he wanted to do was watch that stupid box. And he complained and complained until apparently he scraped together enough money to buy his own set. Then it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yep, that's the first television set that was bought out in my neighborhood.
The first thing that we looked at was the test pattern.
Come for miles around to watch that television set.
And we would sit in chairs and look at the test pattern seemingly by the hour and comment on how clear it was and how wonderful it was we were getting this picture.
Well, Sidney, this oldest son of mine, called him up and told him, hurry up and get up there. There's something on television they need to see. So they run off and left them potatoes on that stove and set that house afire down there. That's what the television set cost.
Tommy Gibbons was WAFB's longtime first general manager and is dismantling a decent rod and reel in hopes of putting it back together.
We get down there putting this little gizmo out.
Gibbons was far better at helping grab WAFB's very first TV channel, which wasn't 9. WAFB signed on as UHF Channel 28 in 1953. Gibbons said the decision was made to go after UHF first for speed. They would grab the more powerful VHF channel later.
We decided that instead of going through a long, drawn-out hearing that would take years and lots of dollars, that we would try to get one of the UHF channels and get another start. And it would be well situated.
When WAFB acquired the more powerful VHF station Channel 9, we bought the thing in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and moved it to Baton Rouge.
When you're on UHF, this would be about, small service area, smaller number of viewers. You switch to VHF, and all of a sudden you're beaming to parishes and regions of the state, and it's a big difference.
Oh, there's quite a difference.
WAFB built that 500-foot tower on Government Street. Cookie Billingsley was standing right here almost daily. He was just a boy.
Well, this picture here was in 1953, and I was 7 years old at the time. But we watched this station for a year to 2 years before this picture was ever made. I was playing on that dirt mound and watching them build this tower and dig the hole for the footings on it. They put all the dirt right here. It was 40 to 50 foot high. All the kids in the neighborhood come over here to play King on the Mountain, and everybody around here was watching it. I mean, this was the biggest thing to come to Baton Rouge since the ferry crossing.
Okay, the antenna is up, but what do we broadcast? Don Hallman, a program director brought in from New York, lined up a fabulous first-day broadcast. He marched a parade of 2,000 people, bands, square dancers, Governor Bob Kennan and his wife, right through the station. And that was only the first day, the beginning for WAFB programming.
This tiger might look interesting to you. 7 years after we went on the air, in 1960, we built a 1,700-foot tower, and we called it the Tiger in the Sky. When WAFB first went on the air back in '53, there weren't many television shows in existence.
When we come back, we'll show you some of the old favorites from dancing teenagers to Buckskin Bill. First, see if you recognize the beautiful woman standing in front of the two goofy guys in this old election promo.
Saturday is Election Day, and Newsline 9 is ready.
We'll take you on location to the headquarters of East Baton Rouge mayoral candidates, so you'll be there as that story unfolds.
We'll have complete coverage of the city council races, plus up-to-the-minute results of local parish elections.
You'll get all this during a special movie presentation.
For election results that are quick, accurate, and concise.
Stay with Newsline 9 for You Decide 88, Saturday beginning at 7:30 p.m.
Long before WAFB's 9 News at 6, there was news of a different kind in the 1950s. Each weeknight, Baton Rouge society reporter Oreen Muse hosted her own live 15-minute report on WAFB Channel 28, charity groups, movie stars, parties, and personalities. Oreen Muse used the magic of television to bring to life the pages of her popular magazine, The Register.
This 50th anniversary memory is sponsored by In Register, Baton Rouge's city social publication.
Over the past half-century, a lot of stars have come through the Channel 9 studios. Some from Hollywood, others from Baton Rouge, but on their way to Hollywood.
WAFB's Alan Toomey has this look at some of the shows you have enjoyed and some of the people you have met on WAFB.
To my mind, she's my kind of girl.
Oh, we loved Lucy.
You get up.
He was a tough guy back then, too, and we rode the range with Rowdy Yates on Rawhide years before he was Dirty Harry. And years before Dick Clark was a household name from coast to coast.
We did a show, a teenage dance show in 1953 called the 4TA Club. That's 4, the letter 4, T-A. 4 teenagers, 4 teenagers.
S.J. Montalbano was one of those teens dancing on the 4TA Club, and he danced with some beauties.
Dorothy Bourgeois. Yeah, I knew her real well. In fact, I danced with her on the program once. And she became Ellie Mae from the Beverly Hillbillies. Knew her real well. She's a beautiful girl, great dancer. And I went out to University High, and I picked Liz Cole as my dancing partner. And a few years later, I was in New York, and I saw this big billboard, Elizabeth Ashley, starring in Barefoot in the Park, and went backstage, and I said, Liz. I said, Liz Cole, and she said, it's Liz Ashley.
Tell us about your quarrel with Joe Bradford over the defendant.
And the stars came to Baton Rouge. Here's Perry Mason, a.k.a. Raymond Burr, on the set of the $1 Million Movie with Bill Black.
Go on, Mr. Sands, tell us.
And here, Bill Black, a.k.a. Buckskin Bill, chats with Sheena of the Jungle. Eddie Albert dropped by Channel 9 from Green Acres, a very young Carol Burnett, and the ageless Grandpa Munster. But Channel 9 always had its own galaxy of stars, and quite a few of them shone in the kitchen. Betty Yoder started it all off with a very popular cooking show which aired on WAFB for 2.5 years. And it's a tradition which continues right up to the present moment.
I got it now, Morton.
And the stuff that went on in Ralph and Alice's kitchen is nothing compared to what went on at the WAFB studios when Billy Kilshaw was putting on the live wrestling matches. Billy remembers one fan who didn't watch on TV but came down to the studio every Saturday.
He'd beat on the side of the ring and hit the bad guy when he came out of the ring, and it was a lot of fun.
From Matt to Montalbano, it's been a great 50 years of programming. Alan Toomey, WAFB 9 News.
And of course, arguably the most popular local television show that ever aired on WAFB was Buckskin Bill's Storyland.
Up next, we'll take a look back at the Monday Morning March. We'll also catch you up on some other old friends you used to watch on Louisiana's News Channel.
See if you recognize some of them now.
Happy 50th anniversary to Louisiana's News Channel.
Happy 50th anniversary, WAFB, Louisiana's News Channel.
Happy 50th anniversary to WAFB Channel 9, Louisiana Sports Channel.
Happy 50th anniversary to Louisiana's News Channel.
Happy 50th anniversary to WAFB, Louisiana's News Channel.
Happy 50th anniversary to WAFB, Louisiana's News Channel.
Happy 50th anniversary, WAFB-TV.
He was the voice of Senior Puppet, the announcer for Dixie Wrestling, the weatherman for the 10 p.m. news, the host of the $1 Million Movie, the epitome of old-time TV. He's the multi-talented Sid Crocker, one of WAFB's own.
For the best insight both day and night, stay with Channel 9, WAFB-TV.
Join WAFB as we celebrate 50 years.
It took a lot of people over the years in order to make 50 years of television excellence possible, not the least of which were the people on the air.
WAFB's own John Burns has a look back at some of the personalities that made WAFB-TV an unforgettable part of so many lives.
And with that, WAFB went on the air back in 1953 as UHF Channel 28. While that was a nice start, it took folks like newsman Sid Crocker and society reporter Oreen Muse to establish WAFB as a strong information source for the local community. Over the years, the tradition of excellence was carried on in all areas of programming, from folks like cooking show host Betty Yoder to the man who brought so many of Baton Rouge's children into the Channel 9 family with his infectious enthusiasm and the Monday Morning March. And taught us all an important life lesson.
You're never completely dressed until you put on a smile.
From community involvement to the nightly news, Channel 9 personalities like Carlton Cremines, Bob Scarce, Jay Townsend, and so many more won viewer confidence with their professionalism, not to mention their unique style.
Why anybody would want to do this, I don't know.
Since the early years, that confidence has grown into a fierce loyalty, thanks to countless news anchors, reporters, sports, and weathercasters who've carried on that commitment to professional excellence.
2 days after I talked with John Slaughter, he died. His body was found floating in the Mississippi River. Cause of death, a drowning.
Some of Channel 9's personalities have made you smile with the stories you'd see only here.
At 6'7", believe me, I've heard my share of "how's the weather up there" comments. But get a load of this guy.
Others taught you to cook and taught you a little something extra along the way.
A little more than just presenting recipes. I also try to present a little Cajun music and some of the Cajun language.
No matter what their specialty, Channel 9 personalities have given their all to bring the stories that matter home to you. Some have even gone on to share their talents in other markets.
Working for you in downtown Houston, Isaiah Carey, Fox 26 News.
Reporting live from Manhattan, Jay Gormley, CBS 11.
Some even on the national stage.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Brando, and welcome.
Others, like Dan Bournet, have become part of LSU sports history.
Champions of the Southeastern Conference.
And still others have moved on to politics, working with some of our state's top elected officials. No matter where their careers have taken them since their days at WAFB, each of Channel 9's unique talents has left his or her mark on you at home and on all of us. Jean Burns, WAFB 9 News.
Coming up next, we take you back to the humble beginnings of local news in Baton Rouge.
But first, see if you remember this. It used to be a regular on what was then called Newsline 9.
Not long ago, Contact 9 helped Carol Miller. Someone hit and damaged his car and refused to pay for it until Contact 9 worked it out.
Got better results through Channel 9 than I would through a lawyer.
Contact 9, only on Newsline 9. We're looking out for you. Paul Gates, a part of Louisiana.
Good evening. Here is some good news. If you happen to be in the market for a house.
Paul Gates, on Newsline 9 at 6 and 10. We're looking out for you.
You know, I still have that barbecue pit. Wish I could say the same for the hair. The story of news here at Channel 9 TV is in part a story of the technology that has evolved, allowing us to do the things we do today, like covering a war in real time with live pictures from another continent. But the real story of news here at Channel 9 is much more about good people and integrity. In those first years, news was something the ESSO reporter read to you from wire service copy. Rip and read, we called it. No color, no pictures, no Walter, Dan, or Peter. But there was a huge future ahead for this stuff called television news.
At first, news was just sort of a stepchild because it wasn't considered the money maker. It later became a money maker, and stations all over the country, and people began to realize that that there was a great demand for news, that the public wanted and desired news.
Carlton Cremines was hired in 1960 to meet that growing demand. He was the first news director of Channel 9, and it was his job to build a news department for General Manager Tommy Gibbons, the man who hired him, and a man who could clearly see the future.
As more television stations came on the air and around the country, it became evident that the stations who exceeded in local news exceeded in overall ratings.
I had some ideas about what a news organization should be, and although I was it for a long time, I was the only newscaster, the only reporter, and I did the whole thing for a number of years, actually until about 1963.
The old beachcomber always complimented Carlton because he selected good people such as yourself, and he said that Carlton had a nick of selecting good people. He did. He was very good at.
Many of the faces are probably familiar to you. Some have found success on much larger stages, and some have chosen entirely different paths in their lives. But through all the amazing advancements in technology and the changes in people, one thing has remained the same in Carlton's news department and throughout Channel 9.
From the top on down, there was a feeling of fairness and honesty. From Tom Gibbons on down, we tried to convey a station philosophy: fairness, honesty. And those weren't just words, we actually tried to live by them.
Baton Rouge has always been a magnet for the big story, the national spotlight, the troubled days of the civil rights struggles, our unique experience with politics, the hurricanes and floods that batter our state and the Gulf Coast. Even the sniper killers put us once again in the middle of a national story. But it's covering that kind of news day in and day out that takes the green out of a news department real quick, which means your local Baton Rouge news is a professional product.
I do a lot of traveling, and I don't see any news anywhere that surpasses what we have right here in Baton Rouge. Not only production-wise, but the content and the aggressiveness in our coverage.
It's pretty clear that talent and technology in tandem is the key to a successful news department. And over these last 50 years, Channel 9 has been blessed with many talented and skilled people who've all made a contribution to our success. Our owner, Raycom Media, continues to make the necessary investments in technology that best serve the needs of our viewers. And we will never stray from our promise of fairness and honesty.
Thanks, Paul. Weather forecasting has also changed a lot in the past 5 decades.
Next, Mike Graham will show you how it went from grease pens to high-tech computers. His suits have also undergone an upgrade.
Color computer weather, only on Newsline 9 tonight.
WAFB, the first 50 years, is sponsored by U.S. agencies, V. Watts Furniture, and Acadian Ambulance.
Elwood wins on McDonald's. TV9 Color the Weather T-shirt for that picture of a sunny day. I like to see more of those pictures and sunny days.
All right, thank you, Mike.
That was 20 years ago. Not much has changed, except maybe for Mike's hairline. But forecasting itself has changed a lot. And Mike Graham was here when the first computers went online in the WAFB Weather Center.
Mike and WAFB's Diane Deaton join us now to explain how we went from grease pens to the powerful Century 9000 Doppler radar.
That's right. The way we bring important weather information to you has come a long way over the decades, and it continues to evolve.
And if anything, the pace of change is quickening right along with even more rapidly changing technology.
When I started to broadcast weather on television only 6 years after WAFB signed on the air, it was really low tech.
Back in those days, weather technology consisted of only a magic marker and a pane of glass.
I remember looking in the newspaper for an old depiction of the weather map for guidance on where to place the fronts. I'd trace it in lightly and then draw in heavy marker over the light tracing while I was on the air. For a satellite picture, it was a blurry black and white wire photo, which was hard to understand.
The forecast graphic was as plain as it gets, just words in white over a black background.
We graduated to magnetic paint and symbols, so we were able to add a little color. Billy Taylor and I used that system for years.
We're at 91 here in Baton Rouge and 92 degrees.
When I began back here in WAFB in 1983, we were just beginning to use computers to gather data and make pictures. Back then, computer technology was in its infancy.
WAFB was first in Baton Rouge and among the first handful of stations nationwide to adopt computer technology.
The images were primitive by today's standards, but from the early 1980s to the present, computer technology grew to the point that now allows us to gather data by satellite and display it instantly with three-dimensional moving graphics.
Radar, too, has evolved from white blotches displayed by an old aircraft radar to today's multicolor images on Sentry 9000 Doppler. Sentry 9000 Doppler is certainly a quantum leap in television weather technology. We've shown you what the past brought you, and I'd like to talk with my colleague Jay Grimes now about what the future holds in store.
Well, one of the things we want to just keep reminding folks is the technology of Sentry 9000. That is certainly cutting-edge technology. We're the envy of many television stations across the South because we have that resource, as well as our computer resources here. What we're going to see in the future is continued growth of that kind of resource. By the way, I want to congratulate you on your Louisiana Association of Broadcasters Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, thank you very much. When we began computer technology here in the early 80s, the technology was rather primitive. We've come a long way now. We can fly around the world in 3 dimensions, but there's a lot in the future as well.
No doubt about it, Mike. I think we've only just begun to see some of the technology and the growth in that arena. Right now we have 3-dimensional capabilities. I think in the next couple of years we'll be able to render imagery that looks almost lifelike. Not only that, we're going to see continued growth in the field of meteorology as well. So there's going to be a balancing act, keeping up with the science and keeping up with the technology.
I've often said that if you had told me as few as 5 years ago that we'd be doing things now the way we're doing them, I would have told you that no technology would ever exist that would allow it. I can hardly wait to see what the next 5 years will bring.
Thanks, Mike. When we began this look back at the first 50 years of WAFB, we found one thing that hadn't changed at all. The people of South Louisiana are still some of the biggest sports fans in all the world.
Next, Steve Schneider takes a look back at 50 years of LSU, Southern, and the sports world. But first, tailgating back in the 1980s.
LSU football. There's so much more to it than the game itself. I'm Andre Mora. I'll take you to a day-long party that's done right, Louisiana style, in Tigertown. A special report on Newsline 9. The Schneider family Christmas TV spot. The boys argued about Santa's reindeer. And it went downhill from there. Andre wants you to do is tell about your stockings, okay? Who's on your stocking and why you got it?
Now wait,
Sit up straight.
Before you start, let Mr. David get ready.
Come on. But we did get one shot. From our family to yours, season's greetings.
Yay, it's party time. Cookies. Okay, I'm going to eat the cookies now.
Well, I definitely don't mind admitting I wasn't around when WAFB came on the air 50 years ago. I have been covering sports in Baton Rouge about half that time, since 1979, and certainly knew about LSU and the Saints even before that as an LSU student and as a kid growing up in South Mississippi. What we're trying to do here is pretty much impossible, condensing 50 years or even 25 when we switched over from film to videotape down to less than a 3-minute segment. But here's an attempt with some of the great moments. In the mid-50s, there were a couple of kids running footballs in Baton Rouge who would forever put LSU on the national map. Jimmy Taylor helped the Tigers toward their only national championship under Paul Dietzel, and Billy Cannon's Halloween night run against Ole Miss followed that 58 title and earned him the school's only Heisman Trophy. Southern's Ace Mumford won Black College national championships, but most of the next 3 decades were filled with individual heroics rather than team titles. The the 60s giving us Southern Olympic heroes Willie Davenport and Rodney Milburn, and college basketball's all-time leading scorer, Pistol Pete Maravich. LSU football continued to establish itself as a national power with tales of playing in Tiger Stadium on Saturday nights growing to legend under Charlie Mack. And who can forget pro football's arrival in 1967 with the first play in New Orleans Saints history. Despite miserable records, this franchise enjoyed unparalleled fan support and occasional memories like Tom Dempsey's record-breaking 63-yard field goal in 1971.
2 seconds left. Here's the snap. The ball is down. Dempsey kicks it down the way.
The 70s also included the arrival of the NBA's New Orleans Jazz, which led to that return of Pistol Pete. Meanwhile, a coach hired from Utah State was taking LSU basketball back to the top. Dale Brown's Tigers upsetting top-ranked Kentucky in 1976 and landing in the Final Four 5 years later and again in 1986. Who can forget Baton Rouge native Keith Smart hitting the game winner in the Superdome, or Zachary native Doug Williams of Grambling leading the Washington Redskins to the championship in Super Bowl 22, the first black quarterback to start and succeed on the NFL's biggest stage. There was the arrival of Chris Jackson and later Shaquille O'Neal to Brown's LSU teams in the late 80s and early 90s. 1987 marked the beginning of LSU's dynasty in track and field. And then in 1990, it was the creation of WAFB's Sportsline Friday night. Meanwhile, the decade of the 90s belonged to Stanley Skip Bertman and his LSU baseball Tigers, who dominated their sport by winning 5 national championships in 10 years, including Warren Morris's dramatic home run to beat Miami at the 50th College World Series in Omaha. There are so many other names we didn't mention: Burt Jones, Bob Love, Harold Carmichael, Lou Brock, to name a few. We've also seen the advent of gender equity, advances in women's sports. Tell you what, from coaching controversies to NCAA investigations, sports in South Louisiana has always been as spicy as the Cajun cuisine that makes our tailgating second to none.
Thanks, Steve. Here's something else we can all be proud of. This year, the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters named WAFB the Community Station of the Year.
Up next, we look at decades of service to South Louisiana. But first, a look back at an early edition of Crackdown on Crime, back when people had to be told to lock their doors.
WAFB helps you fight crime. Homeowners, one of several things you can do to protect your home from a burglary involves locking your doors. It sounds simple, but door locks vary. Overall, here's the best type of door lock for securing your home. This is a heavy-duty deadbolt lock. It costs from $8 to $40. Security experts say it is secure. Crime, Law, and Disorder, this month at 6 on Newsline 9.
Community First. For 5 decades, WAFB has been part of events and activities that have touched our viewers' lives, be it agriculture, medical research, or starting a zoo.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Baton Rouge needs a zoo.
Where there's a need, WAFB Channel 9 is there to help. Join WAFB as we celebrate 50 years of Baton Rouge television.
I Love Lucy, Gunsmoke, Senior Puppet, the Monday Morning March. Some of the most vivid memories of growing up with WAFB.
But as promotions director Andre Boyd reports, if you really think about it, the most important and far-reaching way Louisiana's news channel has touched viewers' lives is through its 5 decades of community service.
Public service is one of the purest ways a television station can interact with its viewers to bring significant change to a community. It's been paramount at WAFB since the beginning. For the first 30 years, overseeing WAFB's commitment to public service fell to Grace McAlvin. Grace was recognized throughout the industry for the way she used her PR and marketing skills to transform a minor community event into a major fundraiser. In 1954, Grace used TV to help the March of Dimes fight infantile paralysis. Each year, she made sure on-air publicity was given to the Baton Rouge JC's Parade and the city's annual Downtown Rodeo Parade. And did you know that Mike Graham's involvement in promoting today's annual Kiwanis Pancake Day is actually a continuation of WAFB's 5 decades of publicity for the event? Under Grace's supervision, literally hundreds of local organizations benefited from WAFB's call to action. After Grace McElvin's death in the early 80s, Tommy Gibbons had a big void to fill. He found someone with an even greater commitment to public service than Grace. Her name is Margie Larson.
Every day, a couple times a day, there'd be a different nonprofit that would call and say, oh, we need help. We worked so hard with the public school system, and we worked with the Safe Halloween and Treat Street.
Margie's most successful campaign?
This Check It Out Just for the Heart of It. We advertised it on all of our newscasts and promoted it. We had lines around the entire block of Baton Rouge General. It was such a big success that our very, very big competitor here in town felt they had to cover it. They had never seen people standing after dark waiting to get their cholesterol checked. It was just awesome. Because I was allowed to work for Channel 9 and do community relations, I made a difference, and we made a difference in somebody's life every day. Every day we helped somebody. And you know, what better feeling is it than that?
Today, Channel 9's promotion of community events expands across newscasts, commercial airtime, locally produced programming, even the web. We promote events related to government, health, the arts, volunteerism, and public safety. After the events of September 11th left thousands of children without parents or loved ones, WAFB spearheaded a campaign that empowered thousands of our local kids to comfort other kids. Today, Louisiana's News Channel is using its major resources to inform the public about the Baton Rouge serial killer and to educate viewers about personal safety and self-defense. There's another reason why community service is such a part of WAFB. On any given day, Channel 9 employees can be seen away from the cameras, working at shelters, serving meals, building houses, whatever's needed, not for the publicity, but because they want to give something back to the community. It's who we are. It's what we do.
In March of this year, WAFB Channel 9 was recognized by the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters as the state's Community Service Television Station of the Year. We also received an award for our community involvement in the Baton Rouge serial killer cases.
Now up next, we're going to take a look into the future. What will the next 50 years hold for WAFB?
And we want to invite you to see a special exhibit commemorating our 50th anniversary. Right now, the finishing touches are being put on a photo and video exhibit at the Old State Capitol. It runs all next week, April 22nd through the 30th. Each visitor will receive a commemorative poster while supplies last. Television has come a long way since WAFB first hit the airwaves 50 years ago. We've gone from rabbit ear antennas to high-definition television.
But what happens next? WAFB's Pat Simon takes a look ahead at an exciting new way you'll see TV in the future.
Let's start first with where we are right now in television. Many of you have a standard TV set like this that carries an analog signal. But in 2 years, you're going to need a digital TV like this widescreen HD TV, high-definition television, a much sharper and crisper image. With HD TV, the future of television is now.
A lot of customers tell me that it's like it's 3D. It's like you're there. I mean, imagine being able to watch a baseball game and being able to recognize the people in the stands.
It's that sharp.
It's that sharp.
And here at WAFB, engineers have been working for months setting up the HD TV tower and transmitter to bring you this new, exciting experience starting April 21st.
If they buy a high-definition television set and receiver, they will be able to see the pictures that are widescreen and really super sharp images.
They'll tell the difference.
They'll tell the difference.
Also in the future, say goodbye to VCRs and these things. We're going digital. It's already on the market right now. Let's take a look. Ever heard of TiVo? It's a whole new way of watching what you want when you want it. Now look at this. You'll even be able to control live TV like this.
Instead of having, 20 or 30 stations on pay-per-view like you do now, being able to pull up a video library of thousands and thousands of movies for one and watch whatever you want to watch at that exact same time.
And it gets better. So many of us already use the computer and the internet, so it makes sense to marry them together with TV. Experts call this convergence.
There will be a day, and I don't think this day is that far off, when what you see on television and your computer will be all one and the same.
That's right, your television and computer combined. Could we be moving from a society of couch potatoes into mouse potatoes?
Well, what it allows you to do, Pat, is to view your television station, watch TV at the same time while you can be using your computer over on this side, whether the kids playing video games, whatever software that the parents want to run, as well as send and receive email at the same time.
And could the next step be more interaction between you and the people on the other side of the screen?
Back here in the station, people will actually be able to get on their computer and live time talk to us just like you do in your morning program, but it'll even be better.
Better? Well, how much better? Like a scene from the Jetsons cartoon where people are talking to one another by TV?
Come on, Pat. Some people like moi just aren't that high tech.
Well, Sean, some people already use cell phones where they can talk and see one another.
So you mean TV could really be that interactive?
It could be.
We want to make sure you didn't miss the exciting announcement in Pat's story. WAFB will officially begin broadcasting in high-definition television next week. You'll find our signal on DT46. We hope you'll embrace this new technology along with us. Now, when WAFB Channel 28 went on the air, we had a whopping audience of 32,000. That's how many people owned television sets in Baton Rouge 50 years ago.
Now that number has grown to 550,000 homes in the greater Baton Rouge area. And thanks to you, in terms of percentages, WAFB is now the highest-rated CBS affiliate in the country. We thank you for making our first 50 years a success and for celebrating our anniversary with us.
Good night.
WAFB, the first 50 years, was sponsored by U.S. agencies, VWatts Furniture, and Acadian Ambulance.